welcome to part 4 of Brewing with the Baron. Today we will be, well, I'll give a couple minutes to let people get online again, so I'll just do a little bit of talking. I do want to thank everyone that has been showing up, getting some really nice comments. Some of the comments, of course, has been, hey, can we see your entire head and not just the eyes and lower? Or we're seeing way too much of the lower table. Man, doing this for the first time, these camera angles on a phone is not as easy as people think. And like I said before, I didn't know everything was backwards. So this is my right hand, but according to the video, it's my left hand. So I refuse to write anything down unless I can write it backwards. So as with everything, it's fun, it is adventurous, and it is all about personal taste. So, I have today with me a friend of mine, Ellie. You go on in.
Hey.
And we'll do a nice little bending down a little bit just in case. This is who we are. All right. Can you see our faces up here? And if you're not, then we'll just do the talking hand thing.
Hands to be very expressive.
There you go. All right, so here are the 2 batches that we made yesterday of the 2 ciders. This is molasses and this is the brown sugar. So what we're going to do is we're going to add just yeast to it, and then we'll set it to the side, and then we'll start talking about second fermentation and transfer from first to the second bottle. All right, so as we do this again, we go and use the nice little Red Star yeast. We have our 1/4 teaspoon, not tablespoon, teaspoon, which is essentially 1 gram. So we'll put 2 scoops, 2 grams per gallon. Into each one of the bottles. Thank you very much. We'll let this sit, check on it every day again. If it does not start after the 2nd day, then I will do a quick start or a shock to it by adding a little bit of sugar and then some more yeast. And then after 2 more days, if not, then I'll add nutrient and yeast, and that will definitely get it going. All right, now I also said before, set these off to the side, that we usually go and show you the other bottles. Well, the other bottles, unfortunately, it got cold last night, and where I had them stored was in the 60-degree range or less, like 54. So unfortunately nothing happened with them, so no changes. Hopefully they'll be different tomorrow and I can go, look at the bubbles. That'll be cool. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start our first transfer of the mead that was created how many weeks ago?
About 5 on
5 weeks ago.
It was a Tuesday.
Can you please explain to us the 2 batches that was created?
Alright, so this was the first batch. This one, we took some raspberry tea and we put it in the water honey mixture as it was on the stove. Swished it around a bit, as one does. And it added some flavor. And then we thought, oh hey, all these mixed berries, we should put the raspberries in. So I had the fun experience of taking mostly frozen raspberries and crushing them between my fingers and dribbling them into this. It turned out very interestingly. We found out we ought to use the funnel because the funnel didn't work. And yeah, we added some ground cloves and some whole cloves because why the fuck not? And that resulted in this lovely mixture.
How many times did you have to restart it?
I did have to do a second start the day after, not quite the day after, a couple of days later, because it wasn't bubbling as much. And
And what did you use yeast and sugar, or did you use yeast and nutrients?
Yeast and nutrients
Okay.
because I figured I wanted to get it started already.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And the second one here, well, after I had crushed up all the frozen raspberries, I had strawberries, blackberries, and blueberries left over from the mixed berry bags because I couldn't find just raspberries, you see. And so we said, hey, why don't we put them in the second one? We've got the raspberry tea in it, and that'll give it the raspberry flavor. So we'll use the rest of the berries for this. And that's why there is clearly more berry volume than in this one.
And did you use fresh vegetable or fresh fruits, or did
No,
you use
everything
frozen?
was frozen. Everything was frozen. My fingers were not happy with me.
Now, a lot of people might consider, well, you need to use fresh fruit or freshly squeezed or anything. Remember, frozen fruits and vegetables have just as much nutrients and sugars, carbohydrates, I was like, all the natural stuff, and most stuff is pretty much flash frozen. So you're going to use, if you use frozen or fresh, the difference really is not going to be that much for pretty much any of the reaction or the flavor. All right, so would you like to do the mixed berry one first?
Let's do this.
All right, so what we're going to need is we're going to need a new bottle. All right, we'll switch this over to here.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Now, we have some extra cups. These are here so that we can do a portion separately. So we can taste it to see, all right.
Make sure it's not horrible. Also,
Number one.
also, you're supposed to only fill it to about here, but with the extra starter and all the berries, it got a bit fuller. This is actually after I had to take some out after it overflowed. So that was an experience.
Like I said before, make sure you're on a nice surface that is not a carpet, that's not going to get stained.
I've learned my lesson. I've learned my lesson.
All right, so for this first one, what we're going to do is we're going to work together to transfer from this bottle into a new bottle. The second one, Ellie will go and do it by herself. I will go step by step, and she's all excited about this. The look on her face is amazing. All right, so the first thing we do is we've already pre-cleaned, pre-sterilized, sanitized all of our equipment.
It's going to take too long otherwise.
So what we're going to do is we're going to unstop the bottle. Sure.
I use my body weight to press it in, so yeah.
All right, so put the second bottle onto the ground. All right, now we'll take the other bottle to make sure that it doesn't, we'll put that off to the side so it doesn't drop, crack, or anything. Now, I will go and I will hold the hose into the bottle. Now, it's very important that when you start to siphon, you want to start at the middle of the bottle. You're going to have some sediment on top and sediment on the bottom. Most of the sediment on the bottom is going to be the dead yeast. So what we're going to do is I'll have her put it down, and instead of just going straight down, she's going to kind of go at an angle so you can see where it's at in the bottle. So have you start going in at an angle. Right about there. Okay, it's hard to see, but it's about right there. So now what I want you to do is I want you to hold right there, and I will go hold, I'm not sure if you can see this. I'm going to hold the hose into the bottle right above the bell area on up. All right?
Ready?
Yep. And nice and slowly.
Let's get started here. There we go, we're getting it.
There you go. And now you just push it down, and you just leave it down, and it's coming out
Quite nicely.
quite nicely. There you
Well,
go.
not anymore because you raised it.
It'll go back down. There you go.
There we go.
Now, as this continues, she wants to make sure that this does not get any main sediment pieces. You're going to get some.
You can't avoid it.
Right. What you want to do is you want to make sure to start tilting it so you have more area of clear. Now you tilt it very slowly so you don't start mixing up the debris on the bottom and the top.
Well, you can see any sediment down there.
Still looking good?
That's excellent.
I want to tilt it a little bit more. There you go. I want to bring it down a little bit. There's a black bottom on the thing, which makes it easier to see, but if it gets a really dark mixture, it gets a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you determine where the siphon, it's another black rubberized gasket. Right there, it's just starting to come on top. That is pretty much going to tell you that wherever that black top is, that is going to be about as much of the debris that's going to float on top. So as soon as that starts to come further up, you just, exactly what Ellie's doing, start dropping it a little bit lower. Or when you start seeing stuff like this, where it's indicating, hey, there's some stuff that's coming up, you might want to bring it up just a little bit. There you go. Because you might be collecting some sediment either from the top or from the bottom. Might bring it down just a little bit more. Tilt it to the side a little bit more. Okay, now at this point again, I will hold this bottle. If you want to try and siphon a little bit more.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Not working much for me.
Okay, again, now we need to stop. Starting to generate a lot of sediment on the bottom.
All right.
So unfortunately, we got a little bit too much, too close to the bottom. It's going to happen. So what we can do is simply this. Okay, we don't want to try and agitate it anymore. So what we'll do is we'll take this. And then we'll clean that back off. So all you do is you put it back into your sanitizer bowl. So everyone can see. And pretty much do the same thing again. Just
Try to work it up some.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
there you go.
Into the cleaner.
Yeah. Got some of the sediment on the bottom. We pretty much stop the suction.
Oh, I think that's good.
All right.
Video?
Careful that you have to keep on bringing it up.
There we go.
All right. Now, what you can do, and what I suggest, is letting this sit for another day. So you put the cap back on, and you just let it sit. And what you'll see is that it'll start to separate a little bit more. Now at that point, you need to try doing siphoning again, or instead of trying to do the entire pump by yourself, you might want to just actually get just the centerpiece itself. So you stick it in, you put it in there, and then you do the old siphon way of sucking in, and as soon as it starts to come down, you stop, and then you can start bringing in the rest. So this is how I started, was just a straight J-piped curve, and it worked fine. The siphon is really good for when you want to start getting it going really fast. There's also a pump siphon where there's a hand pump on the hose itself, and it just keeps pumping, which is good. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this off to the side. Can you bring up the one off the floor?
Ta-da!
And as you can see, it's already a lot clearer, and you've lost about half.
We'll get more back eventually.
There you go. So, what's the first thing we want to do?
We want to know how it tastes, because if it tastes bad, we don't want to ferment it again. Alright. Going back.
Would you consider this dry, semi-dry, or sweet?
Semi-dry, personally.
Not even one of the choices I gave you. Okay.
You said dry, semi-dry, or sweet?
I thought I said semi-sweet.
No, you said semi-dry.
Okay, never mind. My mistake. All right. It is, to me, very dry, which means pretty much all of the sugars have been fermented out. So at this point, now, the flavor itself, to me, is very, very raspberry heavy.
Very, yeah.
Which means you don't taste much of the other tea or the cloves or the cinnamon.
What was just the tea in this?
Oh, but there wasn't cinnamon and cloves?
There was cloves, ground cloves and whole cloves. And
Oh,
then
that was
also
during
the
the
other
boil.
berries. This one is straight raspberry. This one was the mixed berry. I'm not tasting much of the other berries.
Okay, maybe it's the fact that we got more of the tea flavor.
Maybe. So in that scenario, how could we add more berry flavor?
Well, we can specifically choose one specific berry to go with. Since this was a mixed berry,
Maybe that we had too many.
that's what I'm thinking. Because, yeah, I can taste like an initial berry and then like two berries at the end.
Yeah.
So I can definitely, a strawberry. There's some strawberry in there.
Strawberry then.
And maybe the tartness from the blueberry, which wasn't a lot. But yeah, I could definitely get a raspberry first and a strawberry, a slight blueberry at the end. At this point, if you want to have a very specific berry besides raspberry, I'd go with either one of the berry teas again, or I would go and have a second batch of just strawberries, something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, the cloves, not really strong into it.
Coming through very much.
Do you think that you would want to put a different type of flavoring, like? But yeah, this.
Maybe vanilla would be good.
Okay. That's strawberry and vanilla would be nice. So we can always add a vanilla extract after the second fermentation. I'm assuming you still want to do a second fermentation?
At this point, yes, I would like to try that again.
Do you want to add more berries, or do you want to add like a strawberry tea to kind of bring it out?
Well, since the raspberry tea is what really stands out with this batch, I think we would want to do strawberry tea.
So you want to do strawberry, so you don't want to add any more fruit for your second one?
No.
Okay, so since this was a mead, the main ingredient was honey. So do you want to use more honey to try and sweeten it, or do you want to add just straight white
I think
sugar?
more honey would be the best bet.
Okay, so what we're going to do then is we're going to cap this off, or do you want to try and do that now?
Well, do you have strawberry tea here?
I don't have strawberry tea.
No.
I do have honey, but
How about we get the next one transferred over and see where that's at?
okay.
And if we want to start the second fermentation on both, we can start that here.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll cap this one off. So if you want to,
That's
Nothing gets into it. All right. And just a nice and closer color. It is very dry. To me, this is very dry. So definitely needs more sweetener. Like I said before, you can also add sweetener at the end that will not allow for fermentation, and that is the artificial sweeteners like Equal, Splenda, stuff like that. Not a big saccharin or anything like that. To me, it gives too much of a bitter taste and can react sometimes to not all the fruits. All right, so now for this one, the next open bottle. And before you do that, here is the trick that I had mentioned yesterday with the tape. All right. If you're by yourself, it's kind of hard to hold the bottle and the hose. So what you want to do is,
my arm is a good distance.
okay, put the tape on the hose.
And wrap it around with the bandage.
There you go. Now you can set the thing down and the hose is not going to come out.
All right. So we've got less junk at the top.
Junk at the tongue.
Shut up.
All right, put this on first.
Good idea. Okay. And let's try and
Hold on for a second.
1 second. This side will just slap.
That's fine.
And in you go, friend.
Get about halfway. Right about there.
I'd say. All right.
And on a lot of these, instead of having the tape, there can be a clip. So the more you spend, of course, the easier it becomes. So, but a lot of these now come with clips, so you can just stick it on there and you can adjust it. And at that point, you can now turn the bottle and not having to go and control everything at that point.
All right. Ready?
Yep. And there it goes.
All right. And it's filling up quite nicely. Keep it good like that. There's really not much debris in there, is there?
No, but on the bottom, you can see that there's about almost 3/4 of an inch of debris. And like I said, on the bottom is usually going to be more of the dead yeast and some of the heavier particles.
Like the seeds from the raspberries. Those seeds are those just bits. All right.
You can start tilting it now. Nice and slow. There we go. Now remember, you're going to get some debris no matter what from the top or the bottom, and that's fine. That's why you have a second fermentation. If you want to make sure that you get pretty much everything out, one thing that you can use, and I'll show it to you when I don't know if we'll actually have time to go from a second fermentation to bottling, but I will show it to you in the setup process, is cheesecloth. If you go and you take some cheesecloth and you go and put it around the end of the hose, you can catch a lot of the other debris that will get filtered through the hose.
I was looking down there.
It looks good. Not a lot of sediment moving.
There's some sediment in there now.
Well, there is sediment that is going down into, have you maybe bring it up just a little bit. There you go. Like I said, you're always going to get sediment from the first to the second fermentation.
But that's where the cheesecloth comes in.
That's where the cheesecloth can very, very well come in and fix a lot of things. Now, one thing that you will see afterwards is that there's actually more liquid in this one than there was in the first one. And that's because, of course, we had a lot more berries that took up a lot more space. So that's why that one was only filled up half, and this one is going to be very close to 3/4. Oh, it's starting to bubble a little bit, so you just need to tilt it a little bit more. Try and keep the top black gasket right on the top of the water line. Yeah, pretty much, you can put it down just a little bit further. Right there, that's it. I can see the black part right there, that's the bottom of the siphon. You don't want to get it any further. And right now, it's just slowly taking whatever's left. When it gets to the point when it starts to take in nothing but air, that's pretty much as much of the siphoning that you can with this system. You can take out the middle tube, like I said before. The problem is that when you do it to this level, any movement is going to agitate. So right now you're mixing up the bottom. So,
All good there?
yeah, we'll call that good.
Alright.
And remember, we're saying just a second fermentation bottle. Now, you can strain this 5 times, and each time will get cleaner and cleaner. So, as you can see, there is a lot more that came out of this one than on the first one. And it's a lot lighter. All right, cap this off, put this off to the side, see if it will separate a little bit more.
Am I good?
Should be good for now. Yep.
Alright.
All right, now the taste testing time.
Of course, a little bit. And this was straight raspberry. Raspberries and raspberry tea. I think that's much sweeter. Also, I can definitely taste the allspice.
That is definitely a smelling difference. The other ones just had, I'm not sure if we had cinnamon in the other one, but we definitely had
No, it was
clover.
only cloves.
Just cloves. And this one has
Allspice.
just the addition of allspice.
Raspberry and allspice.
And yes, the aroma difference you can definitely tell with the allspice, which I kind of like, but some people think it's very seasonal, as in winter or mold, where you kind of heat it up a little bit to get more
I
aroma.
think it tastes pretty good like this.
Like I said, personal preference, and that's all that's important.
What you think?
Yeah, that one's a lot sweeter.
Oh yeah.
So this one probably could do definitely with another fermentation.
Definitely. Because that one was definitely fermented more than this one, quite visibly.
It's, I would say it's very close to semi-sweet to sweet level.
Okay.
The definitely the allspice is there continuously. So you get a nice harsh, not, I say harsh as in main flavor, not harsh as in bad. But the main flavor is definitely raspberry, and then it just mellows off, but you get the allspice the entire time. That's exactly it.
This is my favorite.
There you go. So
Alright.
sometimes adding multiple fruits is not always the best thing.
Muzzle flavor.
Yep, from some initial to an end. That's why when I talk about certain things, I always have essentially one main flavor. If I have a second one, it's more of a way to mellow something out. So if I have apple juice, I usually do put some, like 1 orange per gallon sliced up to kind of blend it out. So it's just not straight apple, but gives a nice little blending of a fruit. And definitely cinnamon and some cloves to kind of balance out the two. So this one could probably still ferment on its own because it's still pretty sweet, but I would still definitely add some more honey.
All right.
Just to bring up the flavor.
Should we make it shop start or whatever?
Okay, you can definitely do that.
Inside.
If you can get this stuff off the table, we'll bring the table out. I'll get some more honey and we'll make
All right. Also moving the table out. Once I've got more things off.
yeah, we'll just pretty much take all that off.
All right. You can go over here for now. Hang on. And let's maybe put a cap on the raspberry so nothing will get into it just yet. That's for later.
So for this next part about filling up for the difference, what you can do, what I suggest at least, is actually just using, if you've used mead, I keep saying mead when I mean honey, you just use honey as your main flavor ingredient. You can use sugar, you can use brown sugar or anything like that. I would suggest either just using plain white sugar or using additional honey. And if you do that, just use plain water and honey. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't change the flavor. So if you want to add some more of the tea that you had before, that's fine. But if you add more raspberries, unless it's the exact same batch of raspberries, you might get a little different flavor or anything like that. So what we're going to do is a bottle of water, please. Do we have another one that's not all the way full, or is this the only one?
No, I think it's the only one.
Okay.
That one's empty. I'm not
Okay,
seeing any
yeah.
of the water.
So what we need to do is we have to pretty much estimate how much honey and water we need to put in there. So on these 1 gallon jugs, it says 1 gallon right here. Essentially that means that right below that, that is where the 1 gallon is, right above the top of the bell. So right there we have about this much to add on this one. And that much to add onto that one.
We can always add more from the previous bottles later.
That is correct. So we want to make sure we have enough honey and enough water. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put about 1 cup of water in. I still have one of the containers left over from before. Excuse y'all for all the noise. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting just one bottle, which is 2.5 pounds. So remember, it's 3 pounds per gallon. And right there we have about 1/2 and 3/4 that's left. So pretty much, I would say 1 full bottle should do. And the wooden stick, please. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, I like to get mine to just below a rolling boil. So medium heat. When it's just starting to bubble a bit, then I take the heat off, pour the honey in, start stirring. And that would also be the time when you want to add some more tea. What we're going to do is, for this one, we're just going to add honey, and later we'll test it again for flavor. And then if we want to, Ellie can add some more tea if she wants to add a little bit more of the flavor. Maybe she's like, you know what, I really love the allspice in this one, I want to add it for the second one. Then she can add the allspice to the first one. It's all about personal taste. I'll make sure I put in about half. I'll put about 40% of water. While this is getting started, tomorrow we're still going to have the final class or the final presentation for this week. Tomorrow is going to be more about tastes. So what we're going to do is we're going to hopefully have a few people here, and we're going to go through and we're going to have some different flavors like blackberry, blueberry, pomegranate, apple juice, grape juice. And we're going to determine, hey, I want to figure out a nice combination. So they're going to, I'll put 1 scoop of pomegranate, 1 scoop of apple, taste it, too much pomegranate, I'll put another one of apple. So 2 parts apple, 1 part pomegranate. Okay, this is nice. Now, for a flavor, I want to try star of anise flavor. So get some extract, take a nice little small dab, put it in there, mix it up, and go, hey, this is a really nice flavor. Then you can start planning, and you, like I said, on your 3x5 cards, start writing down different things that you think you really want to try and what will work. Now, during this flavor testing, we're also going to start flavor testing cordial combinations. Next week, we're going to start working on some cordials. Cordials are essentially a flavored syrup. Some people say it's not really a syrup. Some people classify it because it can be really concentrated, kind of thick sometimes. What we're going to do is, ours is going to be alcoholic. So the things that we're going to determine is, what flavor do we want? You don't usually have multiple flavors. It's not like I'm going to have a cherry, pomegranate, lime. Oh my God. Too much.
No.
So what you want to do is you want to choose a flavor, and then you want to choose the type of sweetener. Hey, I want to make it kind of not just straight sweet, but I want to have a nice little caramel flavor, or maybe a little bit of like a nice breakfast flavor type thing. So you add maple syrup to it as the sweetener. The other thing that you're going to determine is what is going to be my main alcoholic additive. I'll have you come over.
I'll just do it like this. They don't need to see my face.
No, actually I prefer you to come over on this side so we're not battling.
Fine.
We'll talk later.
Fine.
All right. So for the third part of the cordial is what is the alcohol that you want to use? The number one that usually people try and use because it's alcohol but it doesn't really change the flavor very much is going to be, of course, vodka. The second one that is used a lot is rum. And there's many different types of rum. There's straight rum, there's spiced rum, any type of combination. So we're going to go and try different flavors along with the combinations we want to try. So I think one that I really want to try is going to be a tart cherry with a spiced rum. And I'm thinking maybe just light corn syrup for a sweetener. So that's going to be my first combination that I would try. One nice thing too about cordials is that they get done faster than most meads or perries or ciders. You can get those done in about 2 to 3 months, even sooner if you really don't care about having it nice and smooth. But everything that you do, as I said, is personal preference and personal taste. So you might even want to try either Everclear, if you're really hardcore, moonshine, see if there's a different flavor to that. So that's the plan for tomorrow, is coming up with great flavor combinations. And of course, next week, we will continue to see on the status of everything that we've created, see how well it started or if it needs another kickstart. I think that should be good.
That's gonna be good.
Now remember, as was mentioned before, one way to cool this down is to put it into an ice bath. Or, like I said, I like to put a lid on, stick it underneath the sink, and just run some cold water on it. It drops the temperature pretty good, but they're still gonna be higher in the core element of the liquid. So after we put this in, we are not going to add any more yeast until tomorrow. So we'll do that. And then of course, after it's added, tomorrow is going to be when Ellie is going to taste it and decide, I want to put this spice in, I want to add some more tea, or no, this is the way I want it. And then she'll start putting in the yeast and start her second fermentation. Now, second fermentations are usually going to take about a week less. So if your first one took 3.5 weeks, the next one's going to take about 2 to 3 weeks. So it's going to be less because really you've already fermented a lot of the sugars. The sugars that we're adding now is less. Like I said, we put in 2.5 pounds, and we're going to be putting in half in one and a quarter or a third in another. So it's not the same amount as 3 full pounds during the first fermentation. All right, what we'll do next is we will bring your first one over. All right, set that right back there. Can you get me one of the measuring cups?
Big or small?
Small as well. All right. what's going to be interesting again is now that you're adding warmed up liquid mead, you're going to start getting a different aroma that's going to come out of the jar, because it's essentially you're creating a mulled product. Maybe bring the other bottle over now too. Thank you.
Yep.
Now remember, you don't have to fill the whole thing up right away. Okay. Because we're going to fill the rest up to the top of the bell.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. With water.
Thank you, Eric. That is very helpful.
Okay, and we'll put the rest in the first one again.
Funny.
Perfect.
And then before I just want to down gently so it doesn't stick to your
Have a pour. Here, I'll just pour it into the container.
All right, that's not bad.
Not bad for an estimation. And there you go.
All right.
All right, so these will sit for 24 hours. She'll do another taste to make sure that the flavor is at the right levels that she wants. She'll either add or change anything, like I said, either tea or spices. And if she's happy with everything, then she'll go take it, add in another bunch of yeast, and start her second fermentation. Make sure you fill water into the things tomorrow when you're ready, into the airlocks.
All right.
Otherwise, I have to come back over here.
I'm
That is pretty much it for the part 4 of transferring and second fermentation. I'd like to thank my guest, Ellie. Yay!
Hi.
And her wonderful first trial at making mead. She was very excited about it.
Yeah.
So.
What?
Sounded like, yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
It's
She's so
like
excited.
terror.
No, it was all good. It was so exciting that she was like, oh, I'll just start with 1 gallon. And we made 2 gallons. And she's like, it's fine, I'll just buy 2 more bottles. So when you start doing this, you start getting very happy, energetic, and the possibilities are endless. Well, the possibilities are all within your imagination. So, and your taste buds.
That's funny.
And if you don't like it, you give it to someone else. Someone will take your free alcohol. Trust me. Or give it as a gift. The ones you like, you give the good ones. The ones you hate, well, you know what I'm talking about. Well, thank you all very much, and hopefully see you tomorrow.